Good evening, Titan Esports fans, and welcome back to our winter split of 2024. Happy New Year to everyone. It's been a long break, but I'm super excited to have everyone back to kick off our winter split, which will be which we had a great interest from a lot of teams in the community. Have approximately 50 teams playing across our four leagues, which we've added an additional league based on after our fall split last split, which we had only three. So this split we have our E4 Cap League, which is Divinity on Mondays. We have our D4 Cap League, which is Conquer on Wednesdays. Our Vanquisher League on Tuesdays, which is a Masters 100 LP Cap League, and then our brand new and shiny Immortal League, which is on Thursdays, which has a 600 LP Cap. So I'm super excited that we had the interest from the community, all the staff that's willing to join us and help out to provide everybody the opportunity to compete in a competitive environment and possibly win some prizes along the way, but also make some friends along the way. Tonight, we'll be going over all four of these leagues that I mentioned, with the Divinity League being first. For the Divinity League, I will be joined by my Vanquisher director and longtime Gold ELO member, participant, Kills. Kills, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the people?
What's up, y'all? My name's Kills. Like you said, I run the Vanquisher League here, and most of you guys have probably seen me around. I talk a lot of trash on a lot of the channels, and I'll be talking trash about some teams tonight too. So I hope you guys enjoy what we're about to do. Yeah, let's get the show on the road.
Thank you, Kills. Happy to have you here with us. So for Divinity, as I mentioned, it'll be, or I didn't mention, but it will be a 10-team league with 9 weeks of single round robin. And now that I see this right here, is not a group stage. It is just 9 weeks of single round robin with 2 weeks of playoffs, where the top 4 teams after the 9 weeks of single round robin make the playoffs, and then we go directly into semifinals and finals. So there's a 350 prize pool, which is for 200 first and 100 second, and then 25 to each third and fourth. And as we draw each of the teams, you can briefly see the rosters quickly, which you all have access to the doc, the standings, and then the schedule. So just a quick note about the schedule. It is predetermined based on the draw. So I'm going to draw a team or spin the wheel. The first team that gets drawn will be team 1, and that is the schedule that they will fall into, and they will go into the standing sheet right here along with their name, and then their schedule will be determined. So with that being said, I will switch it over to the spinning wheel. And yes, this is a low budget production for myself. I'm using a standard picker wheel, and I'll be switching over each time we draw a team. I'll switch over. We'll talk about their roster briefly, with Kills giving you some insight into them, and then we'll move on to the next team. So this should go pretty quick for Divinity. As I said, we have 10 teams, and to kick it off, I will be spinning the first wheel to see who our first team is. And the first team drawn will be Elysium Omen. This team is very familiar to our Divinity League, as I think we've seen them participate all 3 splits last year, if I remember correctly. Unfortunately, unable to win a championship, but they do return with a solid roster, which I will show you guys now. And Kills will give us, not the schedule. Kills will give us some insight into the Elysium Omen roster.
Yeah, this Omen roster actually is returning mostly with the same components it was last split. They do make 2 unfortunate but probably necessary changes to its roster, with the change of top lane first, switching out Yeeclaw for Stubby. These are 2 different styled players, but they are both like right up there, the top 2, 3 in their role. They just play different ways. Stubby is pretty much your typical, if you leave him by himself, he's just gonna win the matchup most of the time. So he's very good at the top lane. They also swapped out their support, going from Arrow to Barolo. I'll be honest with you, he's probably one of the only players in the league I don't know too much about. I'm very excited to see them play. This roster is very good. They're definitely going to be a top in my opinion, probably a top 3 team, guaranteed playoffs. So I'm very excited to see this team play with their changes. Um, but yeah, let's get the next team out there.
Thank you for the insight, Kills. Definitely agree with you. I'm excited to see how they do with their new support. Big roster shakeup for themselves, and also their new top laner, Stubby, joining them as well. Definitely a very solid team. Potential title contenders. And we'll be removing Elysium Omen from the wheel and spinning the next team. Which will be Eclipsing Tide's New Moon. Another familiar face to our Divinity League with some returning players, some new players. Kills, why don't you tell us a little bit about Eclipsing Tide's New Omen, New Moon? I said New
Yeah,
Omen.
yeah. The new Moon team for Eclipsing Tides actually a returning team with completely new pieces. The flagship name comes back, but the pieces of the team are actually a lot different. Most of this team are players I've never heard of. The top and mid specifically, I can't say I've heard of, but we do have perennial jungler Singular Bread in the jungle here. He's one of those players that, no matter what, no matter how far you kick him down, he just keeps coming back. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, he's definitely had some success in the past. So I'm excited to kind of see how this roster shakes out. IQ of Coconut's another player who's a long time player in Titan, probably since close to the beginning as this player been here. So like I said, most of these players, some new pieces to the team, but I think this team could contend for playoffs, but we're really gonna have to see how the first couple weeks shake out to really know how they're gonna play.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like almost everybody here on this roster, well, I shouldn't say that. Singular Bread and Coconut have been here probably for the past 2 years. So definitely some veterans on the team, with alongside TLP on the bench also joining them, and Downfall, who has been a sub, but we haven't seen him participate a lot. So I'm interested to see how this mix up of players goes, as neither the two, I would assume, leaders of this team in Bread and Coconut did not end up making playoffs last split in our fall split in Divinity. So looks like they've changed up their rosters a little bit, joined forces, and we'll see how they do. So we'll move on to the third team, which our lovely wheel will decide for us. And the third team will be almost Dorado Gaming, but it is Glacial Golem.
All right, Glacial Golem. This is gonna be a very interesting team. One of the ones I will say, this is one of probably 2 teams I know very little about, which I'm excited about. I like teams that I don't know things about, because that means they have the best chance to surprise me. The only player on this team that is actually familiar to me is going to be Finny. Finney's a player that plays every single role to a varying degree of success, and um, I think that if put the right pieces around them, this could be actually a very good team. Like I said, I don't know too much about them. They could honestly be they could be a top team. They could go 10th place. I really couldn't tell you too much about them, but uh, thankfully, if I had to put them anywhere, probably going to be middle of the pack team. But this is definitely one of the only ones. Very good mystery. They're all new players for the most part.
Yeah, I agree. I think their jungler is pretty high ranked, so I'm interested. He's a washed up summoner, so I'm interested to see how he performs with some of the other competitors here as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And then with Finney's playing every single role possible in the game over the past 2 3 years, joining the Glacial organization. So we'll see how they perform. Let's go on to the fourth team, which will be Imperial Gaming, who are making a return to Amateur, as I believe they took a break for maybe a split or two. But they're pretty familiar in this specific ELO over the past few years, I would say so. Kills, any thoughts on the Imperial Gaming side.
Yeah, Imperial Gaming actually they did take a break, but they came back a little sooner than you think. They did just go through a short stint in OCL very recently, where they actually won the OCL championship over there with
Oh wow.
some very familiar faces. I know Azure was there, Jobo was on the team.
Oh
Um,
wow.
some I I'm not sure if it was the Gold League or the Silver League. They won a championship over there for sure. And like you said, they're various familiar faces. Um,
How do you not
after
know
taking
if
that short
it's
break.
how do you not know if it's the Silver League? Isn't that where you played?
All right. All right.
So
All
yeah,
right.
it looks like they won a championship, and I believe they've won a championship maybe a year or two ago, but probably different members. I know they had a strong duo of Azure, and I think Indigo has been around as well. So some good pickups for the Imperial Gaming side, and I'm glad to see them in Titan, and we'll see how they do. So let's switch over to the wheel and see who our 15 will be. And the 15 will be one of the two syndicate esports gaming organization teams, which is Sentinels. And that is the name that this team is going by. So if we switch over to the roster sheet, go down here, we can see the Sentinels roster. Kills, any thoughts on this specific sister team of the Syndicate org?
Yeah, this syndicate teams actually, I think probably, I will say both syndicate rosters have a very strong. They're both strong in their own ways. I think quite the opposite ways actually. But we'll talk about Sentinels first, where the big piece of this is obviously going to be OTF. OTF was an all-star mid laner last split, won the championship. Kind of stole it away from me. We're not gonna talk about it. I'm still hurting. Um, and OTF was a strong piece of that team, being able to kind of come back, kind of create his own team, put the right pieces around him, um, teaming up with some kind of bigger names. Manveer's been here a while, Trucks as well. Obviously, is going through a name change, but that's what we're gonna call him. This team, I think, with their coach as well, Stash, who is one of the players that have been around for a while too. This whole team, I think, actually can come together and be probably a top three team. They're in my top three, kind of thinking about like where all these teams are placed. I would not be surprised though if their sister team, who we'll talk about later, does end up outperforming them because they are better in different ways, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But I think this is definitely gonna be a really strong team.
I definitely agree with that. I could see them being in that top four conversation where they're making playoffs and potential contenders take the whole thing. Like you said, we'll have strong, familiar players returning, and then the mid laner OTF looking to carry his team without some of his previous superstars on his championship team. So we'll move on to the 16 being drawn. And would you look at that? It is the other Syndicate team. And this one is called Syndicate Redacted. I'm not sure what is redacted about the team, but looks like we'll find out throughout the split, and maybe as Kills talks about their roster. Let's switch on
Yeah,
over.
this syndicate team, like I was trying to talk about, is different in a lot of ways than the other one. While at the Sentinels team is going to be very mid lane focused, I think that the combination of Vino and Juice Pack on the Syndicate Redacted team, who are my inside sources tell me are a duo that basically wanted to try and find a team together, and they found their spot and they're going to be in Syndicate. Their goal is probably just going to be play around each other, get ahead with a very well-known weak side 25 CS per minute 80 carrying Kiora.
Weak side.
Just gonna be sitting down there hitting minions the entire time. Um, I think that is actually gonna kind of help them propel into kind of more of a top side team. The only question mark I have for this team is going to be their mid laner Durizen, who I've looked into a lot. I can't find anything. I don't know who this player is. But looks like they're going to be kind of a solid, mid lane player. Could be kind of a dark horse, upper echelon mid laner, but We're gonna have to kind of wait and see and how this team pans out. But I would agree. I still think they're gonna probably be a top 14. But with this league being a 10-team league, there's about 4 or 5 teams that are in that top echelon. There's only 4 playoff spots, so someone's gonna get cut. That's good still. So I'm very excited to kind of see how this plays out. They're still a top team, but we're gonna have to see if they can make playoffs.
Yeah, I definitely agree. They have a strong top jungle with Vino being a second All Pro team in our fall split. And Low Juiceback, I believe, participated in All Pro Showcase where his team actually won that. I don't remember if Kira was on that team, possibly, but super interesting to see how they perform and if they end up being a top 4 team as well, or if they end up taking the whole thing. So let's move on to the 7th team now. It will be Rockefeller's Equinox. This is a Rockefeller's organization and new team, I think, joining us from after participating and winning a championship in a couple of other leagues. So if I switch over to the Rockefeller's Equinox, we can check out their roster. You want to talk about them, Kills?
Yeah, we were talking about them kind of before we went live, trying to figure out like what pieces of this team are from their championship roster, and a couple pieces did stay the same. Emotional damage going from top lane down to the jungle, and the Messiah, the big main mid lane piece, is still going to be remaining from that original championship Rockefeller's team. I know they made it. They either won a championship in Risen, made a deep run in AGL too as well. So I'm expecting this team to kind of, be a top contender. But I'm kind of wondering how some of these changes are going to pan out for them. Some of the players on their championship roster are still on their roster, but are subs now. Like Victini and Tagless are both on the roster, but not starters. So I'm kind of wondering maybe if these are upgrade pieces that are actually making the team better, or maybe their schedules aren't lining up. Whatever the case may be, they obviously have some proven success. I'm excited to see this team face off against a lot of these other top teams. If I'm being honest, I kind of placed it in my like 5 to 6 range.
Okay.
I think they might just miss out on playoffs, but I really hope they do prove me wrong because I'm excited to see them in action in Titan.
Yeah, I will say I followed them briefly in some of the other leagues, and most of the time they were like one of the teams that was kind of underrated and overperformed with some of their players. And like you said, they did end up winning Risen, I believe it was, and making a deep run into the Aegis League. So I'm glad to have them here. Another strong org team joining us to see how they fare in the Divinity League with some of the long-standing participants, I should say. So let's move on to the 8th team. Which will be Dread Zone Gaming Elysium. Another familiar organization to our Titan Esports community. Kills, any thoughts on the DZG Elysium team? I know you probably faced off against different iterations of this team a couple of times.
Yeah, I've faced this DZG Elysium team probably four times now across different leagues. The team's usually a little bit different, but a lot of the pieces are pretty much always the same. You've got players like Silent Elements and Gopamine that are pretty much mainstays of the roster. I don't see them changing. Maybe their positions have changed around a little bit. Even on their sub rosters, Symphonix's been there a couple times, Alyssa. But for the most part, they've got these core pieces that they always kind of like try and put people around, which is always good because you've got players that have the synergy together. Another good player I've seen is SGP Malone. I've seen them around the scene, seen them play support. They're actually a decent support. This team could, help fill out the roster, but if I'm being completely honest, I don't know how they're going to fare against some of these top teams. I've seen DZG make playoffs one time. They did get knocked out by myself, I will say.
They just made
but-
playoffs in BOL the gold last split.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention to that.
Come on.
I think the team could potentially be good, but like I said, with some of the heavy-handed top side of the schedule. I don't know how they're going to fare against some of these teams.
Thank you for your wonderful insight on the DCG org.
Yeah,
I
sure.
believe they should be a solid team in this Divinity split as well. I probably have them in top 4 or 5, just
Okay.
based on previous performances and some of their strong players. So we'll see how that works out. And in the meantime, let's move on to the 9th team that is being drawn, which will be Dorado Gaming Psy. And Kills, I believe you're very familiar with this team as well. If you want to give us your
Yeah.
expertise, insight.
I got some bones to pick. I did tell them before the stream started I was gonna rip them to shreds. I can't in good conscience do that because I know for a fact this team is very, very good. Um, I will say the only thing is Coop did downgrade in the 80 carry position from last split. I have to acknowledge that. 2-5 is my goat though. So this team is very, very strong. They keep in a lot of some of the key pieces of Dorado mainstay teams. Cooper, Efron have been there for a while, but they're bringing in some new players. 2-5 is a literal solo queue pickup. This man is fresh out the gates. Very, very strong player. Gabe Leo has been hopped around a couple of different teams. So is Jack. On their sub squad, got Booty Banging Billy in there. I think this team, if I had to put money down today, week 1, I'm putting my money on this team to win the league.
Of course
But
you are. Nobody saw that one coming.
I can also see them missing playoffs.
Oh, okay.
That is how I think volatile this league is going to be this year, where a team that is as good as this Dorado team could win the league, or they could literally miss playoffs by losing 1 or 2 games. Like, that's how close this league's going to be this year, because of the schedule. So you really, every single week does count. It's like the NFL, man. It's not like the NBA where you can lose a couple of games. Every single week counts.
That's true.
But I think that this team should be very, very strong and probably win the championship, but you really never know.
Yep, I think I'm gonna agree with you, especially with only 4 teams making playoffs. I think every single regular season match matters. You know, you can't drop a match here and there and just like not show up, not bring your A game, because you lose one game to a bad team and then you drop a game here and there to a team that you think you should have beat or you're even with, and you might just end up getting that 5th spot instead of that 4th spot, and there goes your season.
Yeah.
So solid team being brought from the Dorado Gaming organization, and if we move on to the final team, spin, 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 spin. It could only be one. Did we save the best for last, Kills? Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. But the final team will be Conduit Esports Griffin.
Yeah. So this Conduit Esports team, I think, is a lot of pieces of good teams all put into one, where they have a lot of like mainstays, like I've said. Dobbs coming in from the old Ghost team, Presija playing from a couple of different teams, Yipsy coming from the Phoenix team, and then you've got the top side from the old Tenebris org with Orman and Glotta, kind of all melding into this one Conduit, like, I don't want to say super team, but like a medium team. Where when I did my power rankings later today, I did have them in the number 3 position. I think they are a very, very good team.
Okay.
I think they are a playoff contender for sure. Probably one of the top couple teams, but like I mentioned with the Dorado team, they could lose because some of their weaker pieces. I think, if I have to be honest, compared to some like teams like the Dorado, or even Elysium has a strong one, I think their bot side might get kind of exposed in some of these games. I don't want to say, but some other pieces of their team though are very, very strong and can kind of help carry them. But I still think they should be a top team.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. I think there are a lot of very solid teams that will be contending for like that middle of the pack, like probably 2 to 7 seed, trying to make playoffs, and it's gonna be really close. But with that being said, that will be our last team, which is Conduit Esports Griffin. Kills, I know you were mentioning briefly some of your power rankings that you had behind the scenes. Did you want to possibly go over those, share those real quick. Give us a brief rundown as we look at the
Yeah, I mean,
standings.
if I had to rank all these teams right now, I could do like a whole 1 to 10 or
Yeah,
like top couple.
you could do that if you want. You could go, like playoff teams, non-playoffs teams.
Yeah, I'll do that. So teams that are fighting for playoffs are definitely going to be Dorado, the Conduit team, Elysium, and then to round it out, like these are 4 and 5, but I think fighting for playoffs, both syndicate teams. I think basically anyone you could slot them in at 4, and one of them I think is gonna miss, unfortunately, just because of the
Mm-hmm.
way the cookie crumbles.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I think those top 5, or basically who's gonna be fighting for playoffs. Like I said, though, you really could slot any one of these teams can kind of sneak their way in there. Rockefellers could kind of sneak their way in there. DZG could as well. Um, I think those are kind of like my top teams, though, for sure.
Okay. I think usually what I like to do for the draw shows is at least like try to predict which teams, like personally, which teams I think are going to make playoffs. I don't like saying who's going to win because then everybody knows the script and what's the point of playing, right?
Yeah.
So I think the teams making the playoffs is probably like Elysium, actually both Elysiums, DCG Elysium and Elysium Omen, Dorado Gaming Psy, and I'm gonna give it to the Condor Esports Griffin team over both the Sentinels teams. So
Okay. So the top row, first 4 teams.
no, it's not the first four teams. It's Elysium Omen, DCG Elysium,
I'm looking at the
Condor
roster
Esports
list.
Griffin, and
I'm looking at the roster list.
actually in alphabetical order. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was looking at the standings. But yeah, that's who I'm gonna go for.
I like it. I
So
like it.
so we'll see. I'll probably be wrong. I hope some of the other teams can prove me wrong. Should definitely be a spicy split with a lot of competition week in and week out for 9 weeks before we get into playoffs. So with that being said, that wraps up our Divinity League. As I mentioned, your schedules are pretty much set here. You can see. So Elysium Omen was the first team drawn, and if you go to the schedule, wherever you see a T1, that's going to be Elysium Omen. This will be updated. Obviously, we'll replace these real quick after later tonight or tomorrow with the actual team names, and then you'll see your schedule. So that will wrap up our divinity portion. I wasn't planning on taking a break, but this did go a little bit longer than I expected. So I'm gonna take just a short 1 minute break before we switch over to our Vanquisher League next, which we will also have our Vanquisher director Kills talking about the teams, drawing them the same way, and then Olram will be joining us as well, who will be making some of the content for the Vanquisher League as well. So thank you to all the Divinity teams for joining, for participating, for tuning into the draw show. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Discord. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. And we'll take a short break before we return with the Vanquisher League next. All right, welcome back, everyone. We're now moving on to our Vanquisher League, which is our Masters 100 LP Cap League, and I'll be handing it off to Kills, our director for the league, to explain the league to you guys, and then we'll run into the group draw.
All right, guys. For those who weren't listening last time, it's going to be a very similar setup to the last league, Divinity. So it's going to be a 10-team league. We're going to do 9 weeks of single round robin group play, so everybody's going to play each other at least once. Then we're going to head into 2-week playoff. Top 4 teams make playoffs. Then we go straight to semifinals and the finals. It's going to be a $700 prize pool, $400 first place, $200 second place, $50 for third and fourth. If you have any questions about that, just refer to the front page of the doc. But I think we should hop right into the team selection.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I'll be switching over to the wheel, and this is my Vanquisher League. Yes, we have 3, 6. Wait a minute. 3, 5. I can't count. 3, 5, 10. Okay. We're spinning the first team for Vanquisher right now. And that team will be dun, 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 Primordial Spire.
All right, Primordial Spider. I don't know too much about this team, but Ulram, I'm gonna hand this one off to you. See if you've got something for them.
Sure. So first and foremost, that logo. No, I'm just kidding. I won't go straight into roasting logos today. That's not what we're doing.
I like it.
So, I apologize. Everything on my screen managed to close out, so I'm just pulling them back up right now. But this Primordial Spider. Oh, actually, no. I liked their logo. They're the cool one. Okay, cool.
Yes,
Yeah. We like that one. Yeah. So I'm actually not familiar with basically any of the players on this team, which is always a lovely way to start every
Absolutely.
season. One of my favorite parts about writing content is that there's so much turnover in this league, and we get to see everything that happens kind of moving forward. They have a pretty wide range of ranks on their team. They've still got 2 Emerald players showing at the moment. So they are probably going to be looking to play through this bot laner. Looks like Glory is far and away their best player. Gonna have to see kind of how far that can take them, though.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited about this team. I did, just so you guys know, I did ask every single team contact for just a little bit of information. I asked them a question. I asked this team, I said, where would some of the players, or no, what is your guys' goal for this upcoming season? They told us obviously the goal is to win the championship. The roster is entirely built for a league like this. They've got lasting success, and they're very excited to play against their sister team as well. So this is definitely a team that is coming in with their goal in mind. They want to go straight to the top. And I'm excited to kind of see if they're able to do that. This is definitely a league where I think besides like the top 1 or 2 slots, most of it is pretty open. Anyone can kind of punch up and take some of those spots away.
Thank you for the wonderful insight. And I will say this is like you guys mentioned, this is a sister team of the other Spire team in the league as well, which will get talked about later. But the Spire org is just recently new from, I believe, a couple of the gold ELO players that have been participating. They just started it up this past year. So shout out to them for providing these players the opportunity to play in a higher capped ELO league as well. And I saw that they were building some additional teams as well. So always good to see a new org by some long-standing members in the scene being put together. So welcome to the Spire and their Primordial team. So we'll switch on over to draw the next team, which will be RDG Premier. That is Rubber Ducky Gaming Premier. Kills Zolran, take it away.
Aw, shit. We're here again with RDG. I love these guys. This is always a fun team to be playing around. Flame, great top laner. Just solid person to play around. Masho is back. this is going to be a fun team to be watching, and they are always competitive. I don't think I've seen any RDG teams just entirely flame out.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, this team is definitely like kind of returning after some decent success last split. They weren't able to make it all the way to the end, but they're a high playoff contender team. Was able to get in contact with their coach. I said you guys were in Titan last split with a decent showing. How would you guys have improved from last split to this one? He came back with some very insightful answers. You know, we got rid of some players, and he's actually able to kind of dedicate some more time to these players and coach them up. So they're very, very confident on actually making that leap to the very end and winning a championship this split.
We definitely love to see it. We want to get the most out of the players that we have, and we see some great returning faces too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sir, welcome back to RDG. Let's move on to the next team. And that team will be XG Dragon. It is Exalted Gaming Dragon.
All right, we got XG swinging by again. Improvise jumping back in on that support role. I believe we've seen Phoenix Flare here as well before. XG had a mixed bag between their couple of teams that came in last split, but I'm looking to see how competitive they can be this split, how much they can pull out, what experience has brought them.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that they've brought some core pieces back, some people I've seen before. Phoenix Flare, Improvise, these are players that have kind of been around the scene a little bit, gotten the reps in. I did reach out to their team captain, Improvise, for comments, and he refused the comments, sent me back a no comment with a Marshawn Lynch meme. So I'm kind of hoping they lose now because of that, but all the success to them. I'm very excited to have them back in our league.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I got to root for them now because they memed on kills.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't comment because that dude Improvise, he loves to yap, so I'm truly surprised he had nothing to say. But I bet you if I wanted to bring him onto the stream right now, he'd be like, yeah, I'll be there. See, look at
oh shit!
You can see him.
There he is. Already. There he is over in the comments.
They shouldn't be saying too much. We don't want to see them repeat of what they did last split. So, let's move on to the next team. Which will be the missing team. So there's nothing to talk about with this team pretty much. We had a team that was accepted and they withdrew their spot after accepting. So there's an empty spot as the 10th team in our Vanquisher League right now. If you know anybody that has a Masters 100 and below team that would like to take a spot, please tell them to reach out to us so that your teams do not have a bye week. So basically, the way it'll work that if there is no team that fills the spot by next Tuesday, every week one team will have a bye week. It'll still be a 9-week regular season. So
now we should just fill it with staff members. We got this.
Yeah,
solo the league.
I'm putting a gold team in there.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll work out great. But yeah, if anybody knows any diamond teams that would like to participate Tuesday nights, please have them reach out. So let's move on to the next team, which will be Nameless Echo.
Okay, this one I'm excited about. They I don't know anything about their players, but they had a funny response to me earlier, so I'll let you go off with the players first, Olram.
All right, so this is another one of those ones where individual players, I don't know too many of them. Right now, it looks like yet another team where bot lane is supreme, with KC sitting there at currently Masters at 19 LP. Everyone else showing Emerald 3 or 4 on their op.ggs. Nothing too crazy, nothing too different from what we've seen elsewhere. But I am interested. I'd always love seeing the Nameless org swing back around. Love seeing what they have cooking.
Yeah,
and I'm interested.
Sorry, you go.
Oh, no. Go right ahead.
I was gonna say I scrimmed against this Kais player the one time, at 80 carry. Don't ask why I was scrimming against them, but they absolutely rolled me. So I can tell you for sure they are at least Masters caliber.
I would expect them to roll you.
So just so we're aware, I did get beat by this player.
That's not saying much, man. Come on.
That's what it takes.
Come on.
That's what it takes to be masters. Shit.
Congratulations, you passed the killsometer for being a Masters player.
And then in terms of the comment that they offered, I did reach out to their team captain. I asked them, I said, who would you say are the favorites to win this league? And they said they want anyone to win except they expect anyone to win except for themselves and their rivals OVS. And I asked them, I'm like, can I get some insight on why they've got such an issue with OVS? They were actually the two finalists in a league called FOF. So these teams have a long-standing rivalry. I'm very excited for them to play it out later. But they believe that they should have won, and they're still upset about it.
That'll be
It's real.
That'll be a great rivalry to see. Shout out to FOF Esports. Closed down doors, but they still live on. And the community members and their staff members as well, which I think we'll be seeing a lot more in the near future in Titan. More on that in the near future in Titan. So let's move on to the next team. I believe was it 6?
Yeah, something like that.
Team being drawn. And just to clarify for the nameless team, it's not the team, it was just Crims that got his butt kicked by OVS in FOF. So he has a grudge against Swifty, and that's actually hilarious because Oversoul Esports Incarnate is the next team that is drawn.
All right. Yeah, gotta love it when things are topical.
I'm telling you, scripts, man, scripts.
I guess sorry. I actually know this team very well. I followed them a lot. Swifty's a good friend of mine, and I kind of watched a lot of these guys' games to kind of figure out like how good they are. And I will tell you, this team is definitely not one to kind of slack at. They are, I would say, in terms of like their actual elo, they're probably one of the lower teams. It's just most of their players are kind of like that high emerald status. But I think the fact that they've played together consistently for the last like year and a half, 2 years, gives them that edge. Swifty and Freedom Potatoes have an absolutely insane duo mid jungle. Overall, I think this roster is very good. So I'm very excited to kind of see them bring their style. Speaking of style, they won Style Esports and the last season of FOF. So they're bringing some championships in with them, hoping to grab a third one. But what do you got for them? Do you know anything about this team as well?
I know that their mid laner's name is Freedom Potatoes, and that is amazing. I love that. That's great. That's the exact kind of thing I want to write in an article somewhere. That Freedom Potatoes just gapped someone. So please, Freedom Potatoes, if you're listening, if you're paying attention, I need you to not suck. I need it in my soul.
Yeah.
And then I also reached out to their captain for a comment from him, and Swifty said, Incarnate's here to put yet another trophy on the mantle. To everyone we face this split, look out. We're taking souls with us. Pun intended.
Okay. Good luck
I like it.
Yes, good luck to Swifty and the Incarnate team. Let's move on to the next team. Which will be Dorado Gaming Theta.
All right. The only thing I got on this team, obviously, I've known some of these Dorado players pretty well, but I don't really have anything about this team. I know Barnes, historically, actually has played a decent amount in Titan Esports for a couple different teams. I think won a couple championships as well early on. And I reached out to our past winner, Dorado Gaming Gamma, their support Hoshi. I said, do you have anything to say about this Dorado team? And he says they are just as good, if not better than them. So I mean, these guys might be a championship contender already.
Oh wow.
We see Husky Templar making a return as well. Solid player overall. I mean, it's a Dorado team. They put together just solid rosters. Overall, a lot of respect for their organization and what they're able to do. I expect good things out of them basically every time they play. But, for the content, You know, totally gonna bomb out. They can't possibly win. You know, everyone flame in the chat, please, to get those comments up, etc., etc.
And their team captain Zol did reach out and say his comment was, "I'm glad there's a lot of returning teams in Vanquisher. They'll be used to the feeling of watching us win the title." Which is pretty. Hey, that's some fire right there. You guys better step it up and make sure this team does not win.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll have to see about that because I'm pretty sure Dorado's first title in Titan came last split. So
I definitely don't talk about their other two teams making it to finals and losing.
yeah, let's we don't mention that because if you're not first, you're last, right? So that's how it goes. Let's move on to the 8th team being drawn, which will be Astral Spire, the Spire team.
I'll let you start with this one, Ulrim.
Okay, so we have Atlas returning. Well, not returning to this team, but you know, playing again in our league here. Really solid jungler, does good things. Expecting good things out of him. I'm not as familiar with most of the rest of their team, but I am hype on this logo. Spire's pulling out some good logos. I like them. The production value is higher than some of the teams we've seen in the past, and that's always a fun little jump there. We do see, you know, right now it looks like they have a Plat 1 mid laner, which might be pretty difficult to pull off in this Masters capped league.
Hey, they were Diamond 2 seasons ago, so
Yeah. I will chime in a quick note. A lot of these players, I want to say, at least Cherry and Cornaz, they both played in our Conquer League last split. They did pretty well. And I think, as you mentioned, Alice did as well. But a lot of these players are, I think, recently moving up to Vanquisher now. So shout out to them for making the next leap up.
yeah.
You know,
you go ahead.
I was just gonna say a lot of respect for not sitting on the elo, trying to bump up, even if you know the rank doesn't necessarily say it just yet.
Yeah, and those teams that do kind of move up, that first season is probably going to be a little bit tougher for them. But once they kind of get used to the play style, get a little bit better facing off against these good teams, it'll help out a lot. I did reach out to the captain once again. I said, where would the fans of Titan Esports have seen you guys before? Their response was, they don't know us, but they will soon.
Ooh, okay.
Very excited for this Astral Spire team, though.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on to the next team, and this will be the 9th team drawn, which will be MZRY Calypso Tide from the MZRY Esports org.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced misery.
Thanks for the
That's just
clarification.
me. But yeah, I mean, cool logo. I'm gonna pass it off to you because I've never heard of any of these names in my life.
All right. So first and foremost, looking at the logo, it is at least different from things we've seen. That's always nice. Actually, I do legitimately like that one. I'm not doing my full preview with logo power rankings this year, so I figure I might as well roast some people while I'm here. But honestly, not a lot to roast in this particular set of teams, which is a refreshing change. Now, looking at their actual team and trying to, you know, create some informed opinions and things I'm supposed to have. These guys actually seem to have come to play. They've got an almost entirely diamond roster compared to most of the places we've looked at tonight. They have pretty well balanced team overall. I see just a lot of MF and 1 players in their ADC Perpetual Dusk's history. So, you know, the lethality abuse, it's coming through.
You gotta do it. LP, you gotta get LP somehow, you know.
You do what you gotta do.
And let's see. I did reach out to the Relix, who is the, I think, owner of the Misery org.
Team contact. Team contact.
Yeah, Team Contact or whatever. it's a brand new org that just started back up in June. The players have been all around, and they're very excited to kind of compete in this league. So I'm excited for them. I hope they're excited. Yeah. Anything else from you, all?
Nope, just excited to see new teams, new faces, and interesting stuff happening in this league.
Awesome. Welcome to the Missouri org, to Titan. Glad to have them. We'll see how they perform, and let's move on to the last team, which will be Pride Stalker Esports Midnight.
Because we had a lot of options to choose from for our last team. Let's see. So we are looking once again at a team full of people haven't really seen around too many times. So we can see pretty clearly Flamingo sitting at Masters 1 LP this early into this split, looking pretty good. Spamming a lot of jacks, rude, hate that, but you got to do what you got to do. Like we said, got to get that LP somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I like this team also has a couple different Masters players on it, like from last season. Presidium's Masters, Alpaca Masters, Flamingo Masters. Like I think these are actually teams that are going to be able to compete top tier as long as their teamwork is actually up there with it. They do have a nice coach who I was able to kind of get a couple words in with about the team. PSE, I asked them, where would we have seen them before? They've competed in some leagues like Aegis and Risen. They've been top 3 in both of those leagues. I don't know if you guys have known, but they also compete in Styles as well. They've been cooking this roster up for a while. This has been something they've been working on, and they're very excited to kind of show what they've got. They're very confident as well to make a top 2 finish. So I'm very excited to kind of to see this team as well. This is definitely, I think, probably one of my picks for like a playoff team.
Awesome. Thank you for the insight on the PSC team and the rest of the team, guys. So if we switch over to the standings, we can see the final order. And as I mentioned before for Divinity, the schedule is pretty much set. So whatever team you were drawn as, that is what your schedule will be. And either tonight or tomorrow, that will be updated on the schedule, the actual correct team names. But you can see here all 10 teams that have been drawn with one missing team. As a reminder, if you know any Diamond teams that want to participate, we do have a spot open. So have them reach out to us. Kills, Olram, any final thoughts on the Vanquisher teams?
Let's see. What teams do we normally think are high tier? Dorado, totally last place. There's RDG second from last though, right with them.
Yeah, 9 and 8 missing.
Because I know Drake is in the comments section.
If I'll take a more serious take. If I'll do what I did last time, I'll name off who I think is gonna make playoffs. In a very serious fashion, I do think Dorado is likely. RDG is probably 1-2 right up there with them. This Pride Stalker team, I'm very excited. I think could make playoffs. A sleeper one, like we talked about earlier, I think this Oversoul team can be very good. And to kind of round it off, we'll just throw Misery in there as well. That's kind of our top 5. Actually, no. To round off, not Misery, the blank team, the missing team. I think whoever goes into that spot.
Wild card, let's go.
Card.
Yeah, that's kind of that's going to be the Vanquisher League, and I will be moving on to Mortal.
Awesome. Thank you guys for your time, and thank you for all the Vanquisher teams for participating, joining, watching the show. We'll have more information for you guys for week 1 coming up on Tuesday, 8 p.m. EST. So looking forward to seeing you then. We're going to take a short break for Vanquisher before we jump into Immortal, which is our 600 LP cap league with 8 teams, and we'll draw the teams for that league as well. Briefly talk about them before we finally move on to Conqueror League to end the night. So be right back after a short break. All right, welcome back, everyone. We are now getting ready to begin our Immortal League, which is our 600 brand new 600 LP cap league that we have expanded into this split. Super excited to get into a higher elo cap and see all these players, really skilled players, participating weekly, and how they do compared to some of the other teams that were more that we more commonly hosted before in previous splits. So with Immortal, it will be on Thursdays at 8 p.m. It's will be an 8-team league with 7 weeks of single round robin, and then top 4 teams making playoffs into 2 weeks semifinals and then finals. It's a 840 prize pool, as you can see here, 480 for first, 240 for second, and then 60 each for third and fourth. So similar to some of the previous leagues that we just ran, you can see in the standings, I'm going to draw their teams. They'll go into their respective team drawn order in the standings, and then their schedule will be auto-determined based on when they were drawn. And then later tonight, tomorrow, we'll update the schedule with the corresponding team names. So we're running a little behind, so I'm gonna get us started right away and try to move this one through a little bit faster. So if I spin now for the first team, we will land on Iceborne White, which is an org that has participated in some of our Conquer League for a couple of splits previously, have been around for a while, ran by Holy Carrots. They're a smaller org, according to them, small and tight-knit community, and they're infamous for first round exits. So let's switch over to their roster sheet. And yes, I still have Ulrim here with me, who is familiar with some Masters teams over on the ANL side, and has been writing content for us as well. And he will be giving us some insight on some of these teams. So Ulrim, thoughts on the Iceborne White team?
We definitely see some great returning people. We see Severe, we see Holy Carrot at it again. You know, Iceborne is one of those teams that they're not always winning, but they are always competitive, and I'm always excited to see them in these leagues. I think they're going to do great things, and they're not quite dominant enough for me to say, you know, they're going to be last place.
Great insight. And just for a note for some of those maybe that are not watching and just listening, in the top lane we have Lil Fizzy, Riddy in the jungle, Wind in the mid lane, Severe ADC, and then Holy Carrot support, rounded out by Respirit as their substitute. So welcome to Iceborne and to our brand new Masters League as the first team drawn. So I can update these teams. I want to keep it moving faster, so I'm going to spin the wheel for the next team, which will be To the Moon Alice. This is another org that I've seen around in lower elos a lot, participated against some of them as well. This is, I believe, their highest cap team. Yeah, they've been working hard to bring some trophies home, according to them. I know they won a couple of gold trophies in another league, so they're looking to do the same in Masters League. Let's switch over to check out their roster here.
Yeah, we've got by far kind of their current highest ranked member seems to be... Oh, actually, their multi is kind of weird to read, not gonna lie.
Did I break it? Maybe.
Because their multi is showing multiple players unranked. And then 2 players, Emerald 2 and Emerald 4. I'm assuming they're not just rolling in unranked, though. So, difficult to say how this team's going to be overall. But what I can say is that they got a little rocket ship and a dream, and they're here to play.
Yeah, for sure. This roster is Walter 88 in the top lane, TTM Galaxy in the jungle, Bladeside in the mid lane, Ryan Gosling bot, or Broad Kama in ADC role, and then Leviathan, Vipar in the support role, with Grantham as their coach. They have a couple of subs as well, with Chaz, Dream Eater, and Grantham as well, the coach and a sub. So, welcome to TTM, to our Immortal League. And let's move on to the next team, which will be Iridescent Dawn Eclipse. Another familiar face to myself and to probably Olram as well. So let's check out their roster. Iridescent Dawn Eclipse has Eddie Boy in the top lane, Pride in the jungle, Eisenhower in the mid lane, Bubster. Oops, did not mean to click on Bubster's OPGG. Bubster in ADC role, and then Boyfriend Diff or Miles in the support role. Olram, any thoughts on the Iridescent Dawn team? Olram, hello, test.
Oh, we lost me for a second. Sorry about that.
You're back now.
We're like 3 jokes behind. Darn.
Go ahead.
So, ID is a team that honestly, from the moment they came in on Titan, they've been competitive. They've done good things. I believe they won in one of their first splits here, if not their first split here. Obviously, that was at a lower cap bracket.
Yes.
But I am expecting their org to be doing good things and recruiting good players. Right now, none of their players are showing masters, but it's early in the split. We are seeing, high diamond at least, and we should be seeing good things out of them.
Yeah, I agree. As you mentioned, they did win our Conqueror League with their org a couple of splits back last year. And they definitely have strong teams in that specific cap, and it looks like this is their expansion into Masters, or at least joining into our Masters League. So glad to have them here. Let's see if we can move on to the next team. The next team will be Akuma Sites, and I believe I did not update that name, so it should be Akuma Halberds, which is their other team that is joining. So Akuma Halberds, I believe this is an org that a lot of people may be familiar with previously, and they've done a lot of good stuff. But now they're returning with a bunch of teams that I've seen them put in across different leagues, different elo caps. So glad to see them. They have Fireflans in the top lane, NA Stallion in the jungle, Griffin mid 19 in the mid lane, Bondi in the ADC role, and then Brash playing support. Olram, any thoughts on the Akuma Halberds team?
Now, I think I recall seeing an Akuma's Katana's team, I think over at AML, and I believe they were relatively kind of low ranked over there by the end of the split. I think they had a rough split over there. But with this different team, different league, different team, different players, we're not judging them based on what they did somewhere else. And I think the switch from Scythe to Halberd as a name, solid. Love that. Better weapon all the way around. Less edgy, more effective. Let's go.
Yeah, for sure. I believe they have 3 Masters teams, so Sites is one of their other teams, and I'm assuming based on the team name, you're expecting Halberds to perform better. So we'll see if that's the case, as they're joined here with some other very solid Masters teams. So let's move on to the next team up.
And hot take, katanas are better than, halberds are better than katanas anyway.
Hey, that's what you think. Next team up is Dorado Gaming Alpha.
I can't make the same jokes for Dorado that I did just a few minutes ago for Dorado. That would be cheap.
Nah, for sure.
What I can say is that their alpha team is pretty much always a solid, just really well put together team. Dorado has done a really good job at their highest levels, being competitive, doing good things. I believe, I'm not sure that I've actually seen any of these players except maybe Jimothy, and even him, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Personally, I'm not familiar with a lot of the Masters players, but I did have an inside source or a little birdie, if you want to call it, that did tell me that Dorado has been struggling to find their footing in Masters and up competition, and haven't had the best performances compared to some of their Diamond and below rosters that they've won, I believe, 18 championships with. So I'm interested to see if they're able to actually claim a championship here in the Masters League with the Alpha team. So glad to have them joining us as well. And they're also one of the only orgs participating in all four leagues. So shout out to the Zola and Dorado.
Though with tax season coming up, that IRS bounty hunter better leave me alone.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on to the next team, which will be Omega Mario Kart 7.
All right, I said I wasn't going to roast people's logos. I was wrong. I was very wrong. I'm sorry. This is the worst logo I've seen in a while.
Take it away.
Oh. We do see some players that we've seen here before. I believe King Coney coming back. I actually think this is a solid team. I wish that. It actually pains me to look at that.
Well, I will say, this is Omega Esports. So the org owner is Ivar. So if you have an issue with the logo, I will say reach out to him and tell them to get a better graphic designer for their specific team. But I do like their concept. Mario Kart 7. They went with the logo aligning with that, and I believe they have some of their starters inside the logo, so it kind of lines up. But in the top lane, they have King Coney, Sunsets in the jungle, the Balls in the mid lane, Wistfully in the ADC role, Mr. Kiwiism in support, and then Schneider and Haley as their subs. And I believe this team yes, so their top and jungle are the champions from the AML winter last split, and then the rest of their lineup is, I believe, top 3 or top 4 in the same Masters League tournament. So I expect this team to do really, really well in this league, but there are also a lot of high-ranked Masters members in some of the other teams as well. But if they have a top jungle duo that are champions, I would honestly expect them to be able to replicate the same thing here, if not at least make it to top 2. And
I am actually legitimately expecting good things out of them.
Yeah, for sure. And let's move on to the 7th team, which will be Con Esports.
All right. I actually saw really, really solid things out of them in AML. They came up a little bit short of where they probably wanted to be, but I don't think there was any point in AML where Con Esports was not competitive, and they are pulling back a couple people from that roster. Obviously, Absar Khan coming back in the jungle. I'm expecting them to actually play pretty well in this league, but since I did it to Dorado, I'll do it to them. Clearly, last place team could not possibly take a title here. Nothing doing.
Yeah, I believe they have some really solid players. Brizzy in the top lane, Absar in the jungle role, Never Saw in the mid lane, who's actually a player that's played in Thailand probably like 3 years ago. I'm pretty sure they were rookie of the split when they had just started playing. So glad to see them back. And then Verticality in the ADC role, and Muzi is support with Gnomes being their sub. I also believe that Con Esports were the BOL Masters champions. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but if this is the same roster, I highly expect them to be a very strong team here. So welcome to Con Esports to Titan, and excited to see how they perform. And let's go on and spin for the last team, which will be Novasphere Gaming Omega. And
So I believe it was Novosphere Gaming Alpha that was in AML last split.
mhm.
And so obviously they decided to go with the exact opposite end of the spectrum for their name this time. No big deal. I what I found about about Novosphere Gaming Alpha at least is that the more that I thought that I had figured out exactly where their power level was, the more I kept having to write that I was wrong. So I don't want to fully commit to their power level right now. I don't feel like being wrong this early into the split. But what I can say is that it was usually for the better when I got them wrong. I think that they were a better team than a lot of times they looked like, and I'm hoping that that translates into them being good here.
Yeah, I agree. I think this org has been around for a while. um, According to Gizmo, I think 7 years, participating in other various leagues at different elo caps. So I'm glad to see them joining us here in tie-in with the roster of Lancelot Link in top lane, Blue Shift in the jungle role, Alex in the mid lane, Haruki ADC, and Hoshinoko in the support role, and Nyx as their substitute. This is a completely new roster to Novosphere Gaming, but the org itself has been around for a while. So interesting to see if they're able to replicate some of their success with the other rosters and how they perform here. And this will be the final team in our Immortal League. And if we go over to the standings, gotta zoom out a little bit. You can see the all 8 teams that have been drawn, and based on their draw order, their schedule would be set. So as mentioned for the previous leagues, the schedule will be updated accordingly based on when the team was drawn, and the schedule will be set. So if you look at the your draw order compared to week 1 schedule, you can figure out who you're playing. We will update that later tonight or tomorrow, so everybody will know, with the first week starting next Thursday. So you guys have a full week before the actual start of the split. Um, and yeah, welcome to everybody to our brand new Immortal League. Glad to have the 8 teams that are participating. Honestly, I think it's going to be a really competitive split. During the review process, a lot of these teams looked really strong and really comparable to each other. So I fully expect there to be a lot of teams fighting for playoff spots, and nobody will go undefeated. Nobody will go defeated with 0 wins. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Ovram, for joining me for the Immortal League. Um, we'll take a short break, and then we'll be back for Conqueror League, our D4 cap. And I saved that one for last so I can get everybody kind of finished up for these smaller leagues. And then everybody else can sit around for Conqueror and yap as much as they want while we draw the teams. For Conqueror, it'll be 24 teams in 3 groups of 8. So it might take us a little bit longer, but I will try to move as fast as possible. And yeah, we'll be back after a short break. All right, welcome back, everyone. The moment you have all been waiting for. We are now on to our Conqueror League, which is a D4 Cap League on Wednesdays. This time around for our winter split, we have 24 teams participating, which will have a 7 week single round robin group stage with 3 groups of 8 teams, and then that will jump into 4 weeks of playoffs with top four teams from each group making it. Due to the large amount of teams, there will be a 1260 prize pool with 720 to first, and then 360 to second, and 90 each for third and fourth place. Thank you for somebody pointing out that I did not switch over to the Conqueror League name, so we are on Conqueror now. Thank you, Tai Tong. Before you interrupted me, as I mentioned, for some of the other leagues, the way this works is that we draw a team, they get into a specific group, and then their schedule is predetermined, as you can see over here, based on when they were drawn. This kind of works the same way for each group, and then the only rule for the group draw is that sister teams cannot be in the same group. So I believe we just have one sister team, and then yeah, every team is going to get drawn to the groups. It goes Group A, one team here, one to B, one to C, and then so on. So let's switch. Oh, forgot to mention, I have a Titan Esports regular joining me, a former champion, multi-time champion in other leagues as well. The jungler for one of the teams in Conqueror, which you will find out about later. K-Peps, welcome, welcome. You want to give a quick intro about yourself?
Yeah, I'm K-Peps. I'm the jungler for the big Mr. Mean Dorado Gaming IOTA. We're coming off of winning Risen in BOL. Definitely didn't lose any other leagues like Nameless or anything like that. But yeah, I've been in Titan around for a while. When I don't play, I write content. I'm probably more known for being knocked out in the first round at this point in time. But I'm excited to talk about the teams I'll be facing against.
Very glad to have you with us again. And I believe you participated in the last draw show too as well. So thanks for hopping on. And with that being said, let's get started with the first team being drawn for our Conqueror League, which will be going to Group A. And that team is Iceborne Chaos. And
Iceborne. Oh, sorry.
Yep, let me just switch over to the Iceborne Chaos roster. This might be a little bit hectic, so I'll try to keep it as slow scrolling as possible. But Iceborne Chaos has it's a returning team from Conqueror last split with pretty much the exact same roster, which I believe they have a different ADC. They have Ant Egwa in the top lane, Mike Lassie in jungle, Mike Weavy in the mid lane, Frostbite in ADC, and JJ is nice as support. K-Peps, thoughts on Iceborne White?
Yeah, I think this will
Sorry,
definitely be a good team going into the split. Agua, he's my favorite top laner. I like him more than I like my own top laner.
Mm-hmm.
He's a fun guy. He last split it appeared he would go 10-1 on Camille one game and then go like 0-8 on Kale the next game. So that way he got like a full 3 game series for content. So I definitely think they're a strong team though, and it'll be interesting to see how they do. With a full season under their belt and continuing to grow.
Yes, sir. Glad to see the full roster pretty much returning. And we'll see if they can do better than their last split, which I believe they were eliminated in semifinals. So
Yeah, I
let's
think
move
they got full 5 game series against Dorado.
Yes. Was it a reverse sweep? I can't
Yeah, they got
remember.
reverse swept.
Oh, unfortunate. So let's move on to the next team, which will be going into Group B. And that team is Misery Sapphire Abyss. So let me switch over to the Misery team. Unfortunately, my alphabet is bad, so it's going to take a lot of scrolling. But Misery Sapphire Abyss has Nemesis in the top lane, Panda in the jungle, Mockingbird in the mid lane, Kush in the ADC role, and then Fireball as support. K-Peps, thoughts on the Misery Sapphire Abyss team?
I have no idea who this is. I don't know any of the players.
Yeah, this is a newer org. I believe they haven't been around for a while, but they are also in our Vanquisher League. And I'm not familiar with a lot of the players, but I think I've seen Mockingbird around. And Relics is one of their subs who promoted. But yeah, I'm excited to see how this team does. Let me move on to. Oh, sorry. They will be going into the first team in Group B. Misery Sapphire Abyss. And then let's move on to the next draw. This team will be going to Group C, and the team is Yoshi's Internet Sucks. If we take a look at their roster, I think K-Peps, you might be familiar with this team.
Yes, this is, I forget what their team name was last split, but this was a team that played in Conqueror League last split for the most part, right? I think it's the same support, ADC and jungle. Granted, they role swap a lot.
Yep.
And
It was Saigon
one of
Goat.
my
Saigon Goat.
former mid laner I've played with, granted he was saying he's not on this team, but it's, you got Epic Champion mid lane. I don't know if he's actually playing, but he's definitely a very strong player too.
Yeah, who knows? If they do the same thing they did last split, you won't know who's playing until game day in each role, and they'll be swapping around. But they had a really strong performance in playoffs. And I believe they were also eliminated 3-2 as well. So,
yeah, I think, did they get knocked out by TMG? I think they were on the other side, or no? Or were they also in Dorado's path?
I believe they were in Dorado's path too.
Okay.
I'm too lazy to pull up the previous split.
Same.
But
Yeah, that's right. They played Dorado in semis.
Yes. Did they lose 3-2 as well?
Yeah, it was 3-2.
Oh my god. Dorado won 3-2 both 2 times just to get eliminated by TMG. Or lose to TMG in finals. Unfortunate.
They're not salty about it at all either.
Yeah, for sure. All right, welcome back to Saigon Goat. Now rebranded to Yoshi's Internet Sucks. Nice logo that they have there. Totally a fan. So let's move on to the fourth team, and this team will be going into Group A. And that team is Krakow V2. Let me switch over to check out their roster real quick. So Krakow V2 comes to us with Snow XO in the top lane, Marples in the jungle role, Creed in the mid lane, Michael as ADC, and Chime Catcher as support. I think these are a lot of new faces, group of friends joining us. I haven't really seen them around. I believe Snow XO played in one of our splits previously, maybe 2022.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I know that name from somewhere. I don't remember what I know it from, but that's the only player I recognize on this team.
Yeah, so welcome to Krakow. Interested to see how they perform in our Conquer League. And they'll be going into Group B. Sorry, not Group B. Why did I put them in Group B? Because I couldn't see Group A. They'll be going to Group A with Iceborne Chaos. So let's move on to the next team. Which will be Fraudulent 5. The Fraudulent 5 roster, apparently they're the Orioles because they're frauds. But their roster is Andy Chef in the top lane, Beanie in the jungle role, Tark in the mid lane, Verja in the ADC role, and Just Bobo as support. K-Pep's thoughts on the Fraudulent 5 roster?
I don't know anything about them, but do you think you're going to have copyright issues with their logo? They've even got the TM there.
Maybe. We'll see. I'll just let them change it.
Nah, it's fine. I like the Oriole logo. It's a good logo.
I think we'll be good.
Maybe a little bit upset that the Orioles are being called fraudulent, but
yeah, I just won't stream them. Also.
There you go.
Yeah, I think I know their ADC who promoted recently. Seen him around a lot of the gold leagues, now platinum. Pretty solid ADC, and I believe their jungle and top are also very solid players that participate in other leagues at this cap as well. So we'll see how they do, and if they live up to their names of being frauds and just miss out on playoffs. Fraudulent 5 will be going to Group B as a second team. Let's spin and move on to the next team, which will be going to Group C, where Yoshi's Internet Sucks, and that team is Horizon Vanguard. If I switch over to the roster sheet, does F come before H? Horizon Vanguard with Forfa Spada in the top lane, Core on the Cobb in the jungle role, Execution in the mid lane, Solo Mason as ADC, and Herondale as support, with Scomps, the owner, as their substitutes, probably playing some support, some ADC as well through the split, so we'll see about that. K-Pep's thoughts on the Horizon, or this iteration of the Horizon team?
Yeah, I don't know. I know, so I've played against some of these players before. I think Horizon's always typically a strong team in any league that they play in. They usually do a good job putting rosters together and being pretty competitive. I know Fourth Espada and Execution were both on the PF Chang's roster, I think, last split. Had struggled a little bit, but I think Fourth Espada put together some pretty good performances throughout the split. Honestly, it's a person. So, and I know Execution's got a pretty good assassin champ pool, so he can throw off some of the mid laners who just like to play, who like to be controlled mage Andes.
Awesome. I know I'm very familiar with Espada. He moved up recently, like from the lower Elo leagues as well. So skyrocketed from Emerald 4 to D4. Pretty solid top laner. I'm interested to see if he can actually hang with some Diamond top laners as well. So, and Horizon's first team in Titan. So welcome to Horizon. They'll be joining, as I mentioned, Yoshi's Internet Sucks in Group C. So let's move on to the next team, which will be going to Group A. And that team is Elysium Dog Pound. And let's check out the Elysium Dog Pound roster. We have Eli SG in the top lane, Duddy Brains in the jungle role, Pregnant Glow in the mid lane, Eli Chaser in the ADC role, and MT's Lima or Tommy in the support role. K-Peps, you're probably very familiar with this org itself, roster. Any thoughts?
Yeah, my time on Elysium, you know, it's where I'm famous for getting first rounded is probably mainly with Elysium. Definitely will be an interesting roster to see. I know SG and a Pregnant Glow. Pretty bad, I have to say that. I know both those solo laners are pretty much on like every single Elysium team. So they're definitely got a ton of synergy playing with each other, and Pregnant Glow and Duddy have a ton of experience playing together. Play a lot of solo queue together. They're sort of the Platinum 1 police. They hold things down there. So I definitely think this will end up being a stronger roster. I know Chasers had a lot of success in solo queue recently, and Tommy's supposed to be a pretty good support. I think this team can end up performing at a pretty high level.
Yeah, for sure. I think this iteration of the roster might have won a championship somewhere else, but I know they haven't done so well as an org in Conqueror specifically. So we'll see if they're able to live up to better expectations.
Never forget the upset of SG against Red Flame Evolve top.
Never forget. Elysium Dog Pound will be joining Iceborne Chaos and Krakow V2 in Group A. So let's move on to the next team. And I hope this is going faster than some of the other leagues. So I think trying to keep it to like 30 seconds a minute for each team. So sorry you don't all get your 5 minutes of fame, but 30 seconds should be enough. The next team being drawn is XG Dark. Let's switch over to the roster sheet. XG Dark is one of the sister teams that I mentioned, with the roster coming in of Sizzy, Manly Mailman, Merciful Crow in the mid lane, Prim, and Play on Words in the bot lane. K-Pep's thoughts on this iteration of the XG roster?
I'm officially just don't want to put faith in XG teams anymore because I thought they probably had the second best team in Conqueror League last split, and then they finished second to last somehow. So it's hard, you know. I think Improvise does a good job, but it's hard for me to put faith into the rosters. I think isn't Sazai, isn't he a pretty like famous gold player? You probably have a
Yes.
decent amount of experience playing against him.
Yep. He's a really solid player who was just recently promoted as well. I think
And
I don't remember
I
if
think
he
I saw
played last
Prim was
time.
on their high elo roster. No,
High elo roster? I'm not sure.
I thought I saw him on their roster, and the league above this one is that Vanquisher. Yeah, I thought I saw Prim on that
Possibly.
roster. I could be wrong though.
I know Play on Words, another player who recently promoted, and they're also joining this XG Dark team. So I want to say this team, they're both pretty similar. So I'm not gonna say anything too early to say, but I think the other team might be a little bit better. All right, XG Dark will be joining Misery, Fraudulent 5, and Group B. So let's move on to the next team. Which will be Andromeda Gaming. And this is also a newer roster. I think they're in order to have other teams participate in lower elos. But if we check them out, they have Xantor in the top lane, Fifi Do You Love Me in the jungle role, Flopper Goblin in the mid lane, Hellshear and ADC, and Wild Dynamite in support with Ghost in Space as a sub. I think this is another team that's recently a lot of players that have promoted into that Emerald skill level. K-Peps, and they're missing a logo, so disappointed in them for that. But K-Peps, any thoughts on this team?
I feel like the only name I recognize is their sub. I think I've played against Ghost in Space, maybe in ZGG. I don't actually know. I feel like he was he like an Eclipsing Tides player, like Going Ghosts player? Maybe that's where I'm thinking it's him. But yeah, I don't know anybody on this team.
Possibly. They did just recently move up. They're supposed to participate on Division League. They made some roster changes, etc. So I expect them to be solid, but they'll definitely be fighting for playoffs in the group with Horizon Vanguard, and Yoshi's Internet Sucks, which is Group C so far. So let's move on to the next team. Spin, spin, spin. The next team is Eclipsing Tides. So familiar face to Divinity, as they started up as an org last year in 2023 and have participated in all of our splits so far in Divinity. So now they're moving on up to Conqueror with ETEX in the top lane, Hideout Bush in the jungle role, Cam in the mid lane, Dark Nokami as ADC, and Zond Lilac as support. K-Peps, any thoughts on the Eclipsing Tides team?
I know they're an LLC. I think that's kind of cool. But I'm sure you can speak more on them than I can, because I think they play a lot more in Gold Plat leagues than they do Emerald.
Yeah, that's true. ETEX and Cam, I think they're co-owners, and then Zon Lilac as well. All three of those players were really solid in Divinity, and as you're all familiar, probably a lot of people that have just like skyrocketed from Plat to like mid Emerald or like E3 and everything. And I think this is pretty true for a lot of these players. So now they're trying to consistently improve in competitive play as well, in addition to solo queue. So putting in a roster here in Conqueror, we'll see how they perform against some tougher competition. Haven't seen them play in other Emerald leagues, so we'll see how they do here. And Eclipsing Tides will be joining Iceborne Chaos, Krakow V2, and Elysium in Group A. So let's move on to the next team. Which will be To The Moon Triton. So let's go down to TDM Triton. And they have the same space rocket logo with the moon as they do for the team in our Immortal League. This roster is with Psycho Ghost in the top lane, Insomniac in the jungle, Steam Bun in the mid lane, Kinopio in the ADC role, and Nisashi in support, and Ivory Buttholes as a sub. I believe the ADC is incorrect because they have a replacement, and I will need to update that. So let me just mark that for myself. But yeah, K-Peps, I think these are, at least I know, Psycho Ghost and Frosty, who is Adam, participated a lot in the Divinity League. Had very solid performances. Adam won a couple of championships, but they also recently moved up with the addition of Emerald to these leagues. Any thoughts on the TTM roster?
I haven't seen any of them before, so are they related to Orbit Gaming at all, or two separate entities?
Two separate entities.
Okay.
TTM has been, they've had teams in the gold scene, plat scene for a year or so, I think. They won a couple of gold championships. But yeah, they're completely unrelated to that other org that we shall not mention. So yeah, I'm like I said, always good to see players trying to improve. But like I said, similar to like Andromeda Gaming and the Krakow V2 roster, I think this team will probably be fighting for a playoff contention as well in their group, which is Group B with XG Dark, Fraudulent 5, and Misery, Sapphire, Abyss. So let's move on to the next team. And the next team is ID Honeyfruit. Let's switch on over to the roster sheet. Check out ID Honeyfruit. I like the iteration of this logo. They have Toomey in the top lane, Xiao P in the jungle role, XBKP in mid lane, Olaguchi as ADC, and Yeetloaf as support. Some of these players, champions previously here, some champions in other roles. Very solid roster, in my opinion. K-Pep's thoughts on ID Honeyfruit.
Yeah, I'd say this is probably the favorite to win the tournament. I think Xiao PP is definitely a very, very good jungler. I've played against him a decent amount of times, and he usually gets the best of me, so he's a very good player. BKP is a very known quantity of just, elite on the control mages. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be shocked at all if they end up doing a 6-man roster between BKP and Nuffy, swapping in and out.
Mm-hmm.
Both those players are really, really strong players. Definitely can make their presence felt on the map. And Gucci and Yeetloaf. Yeetloaf has definitely been around for a very long time, and Gucci, I don't know if he's new to the scene, but like I've seen him playing, and he's a pretty good ADC too. Definitely just all around a very strong roster.
Yeah, I agree. That was my opinion as well. I fully expect them to make playoffs and make a deep run into our winter split. Before I move on, I think we're at the halfway point. So we can check out some of the groups currently. You can see Group A has Iceborne Chaos, Krakow V2, Elysium Dogpound, and Eclipsing Tides. Group B has Misery Sapphire Abyss, Fraudulent 5, XG Dark, and T2 the Moon Triton. And then Group C has Yoshi's Internet Sucks, Horizon Vanguard, Andromeda Gaming, and ID Honeyfruit.
I think definitely Group C is starting to round out sort of as the group of death. I think Horizon's a good team, ID Honeyfruit's a good team, and Yoshi's Internet Sucks will be a very strong team. Definitely, I think early on that looks to be like the group of death. I could be wrong on that though.
I think I'm gonna agree with that so far. Feels bad for Andromeda Gaming being so far in that team, but maybe the rest of the draw show will shake out better for them.
Yeah,
but those three.
The other two look pretty balanced to me though.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on to the latter half with the next team in Group A. Stasis Gaming Genesis. Let's check out their roster, see who they're bringing in. Stasis Gaming Genesis has D-Rot in the top lane, Lizard in the jungle role, Lost Times or Dracana in the mid lane, Very Wet in the ADC role, and Matafaka in the support role. This org I haven't seen around, but I think they're newer as well. I'm familiar with Dracana in some of the previous code leagues, so another player that has moved up to Emerald, but not familiar with the rest of the roster. K-Peps, any thoughts on Stasis Gaming Genesis?
No opinions.
No opinions. We'll take that. We'll see how they perform in Group A with Eclipsing Tides. I already mentioned these. I'm not going to read them off every time. It's too many teams now. As long as I don't throw any sister teams in the same group. If I do, somebody just yell at me or shoot me a DM or whatever. I'm sure that won't happen. So Stasis Gaming Genesis goes into Group A. We will move on to the next team, which will be TD Unknown. And this is another org that is just having to move up to Emerald after being in Gold for a while because of that.
They actually played in BOL.
Plat? They did,
yeah,
right?
we played them in playoffs.
Oh, wow. Well, since you played them in playoffs, if we take a look at their roster, it's CB Batman in top lane, Rigor Mortis in the jungle, Clockwork Angel in the mid lane, Vier in ADC, and Outer Gaming and support. What are your thoughts on the team?
I think this is like a true dark horse team coming into the split. I think CB Batman is he's actually a very good top laner, and I think their jungle Rigor Mortis is getting better and better about playing through CB Batman and pushing those advantages. I actually think this is a team to they're going to be a dark horse if they can really surprise some people, I think. I think they've also been together for a while now. I think their only change from their team in BOL is their support. And so I think like if they're getting things put together, like this can be a team that can really sort of put things all together.
How did they do versus you guys in playoffs?
Oh, we swept them, but
Swept them?
I promise you, their top laner's good.
I'm pretty sure there was a different iteration of the unknown team in gold, but I feel like I've seen these players play under a different name before in other places. So yeah, welcome here, and we'll see if they're able to do better than VOL playoffs. They'll be going to Group B with the rest of the teams. So let's move on to the next team. Sorry for the coughing. We have Eden Snapdragons, and similar to a lot of the teams, and I think everybody will see that this is kind of a recurring theme where we have a lot of orgs and players that previously have played in like P4 cap or E4 cap leagues, which are essentially former gold and current plat leagues. A lot of those players have moved up into Emerald and they're no longer eligible for those leagues. So for that reason, you're seeing so many players and so many teams in the Emerald League. So for this Eden Snapdragon team, they have been participating in Titan for probably the past 2 years in Divinity. And I think some of them have tried to participate in Conqueror. Didn't have the best results, but they're trying to improve. They have Isaac in the top lane. GS John, I can't pronounce that because GS John in the jungle role, which is a new pickup for this roster. Major in the mid lane and Killbot in the ADC role, and then Sad Lantern in the support role with a bunch of subs on their roster as well. As I mentioned, regulars in Divinity and moving up into Conqueror to test out their skills and see if they've improved after becoming eligible for Divinity. They'll be going into Group C. K-Peps, I'm assuming you're not familiar with a lot of these players, but
I've actually played against, I think, Major before. Major's a solid player.
Mm-hmm.
I think the team will kind of go with him. It's sort of how he'll do is how the team will do. I sort of expect his experience because I think he's played in like the same leagues I've played in, like at least it's hard because Plat and Emerald, it's it's all changed, but he's played in like the Plat Emerald leagues already. So I think he has experience. Also, shout out to their sub Robin. Robin's a great guy. We love Robin.
Awesome. Let's see. Eden Snapdragons in Group C. We'll see how they perform. And let's move on to the next one. We're moving through fast. 3, 6, 9 teams left, with the next one being Sensei Squad Inari. Let's check out their roster. It's TD, SG, Sensei Squad Inari. They have Zaziko in the top lane, Bo Explode in jungle role, ZPM in the mid lane, Super False ADC, and D-Shot in support. Sensei Squad has participated previously here before and took the breaks, and now they're back. K-Peps, you may be familiar with some of these players. Any thoughts on the Sensei Squad roster?
I don't know any of these players. I do know Sensei Squad as an org, though. It's Water Bear's the owner, right?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think Water Bear's a very good jungler, and I think also like a good sort of he's a good leader to have in an org and that type of deal. So I think he'll do a good job sort of making these players play well. I don't know if I don't have the name recognition here to really know how they'll perform, but I definitely have faith that Water Bear will elevate their level and make them a solid team.
Definitely agreed. They looked solid on paper from what I saw, and agreed Water Bear was going to sub on the roster, I believe, but didn't meet the game requirements. So welcome back to the Sensei Squad. They'll be in Group A. And let's move on to the next team draw. Going into Group B will be Dorado Gaming Iota.
All right. My team.
Yeah, I don't even have to show the roster. Just go ahead and talk about your own team.
Yeah, so we've got Masuf in the top lane. I'm in the jungle. We've got Tough Daddy mid lane, a Pog player who also goes by Oswald and ADC, and 17 are also Justin in support. Also, shout out to our reigning conqueror mid lane champion, Yushu Yoshi. He definitely did the hard work on that team, playing Malzahar every game. Yeah, I'm happy with our team. Things are going pretty well. The only change we've made is in the ADC role. Unfortunately, Corey had to step down, but it's Oswald fit right in. He's a good guy. I think we're playing well. Got a lot of faith going into this split. Funny if Memer6 saying we'll take second place as we beat him in finals, but it's okay.
After coming off 2 championships, how are you feeling about this roster's chances in making
I think
playoffs?
this league is definitely a step up from playing in Risen and BOL. So it'll definitely be interesting. There's a couple competitive teams in here that'll definitely sort of, I think, make us, if we're gonna win, will make us earn it. But I'm excited to play. It should be a lot of fun.
How are you feeling about your chances of making playoffs in Group B so far?
Oh, I mean, playoffs is like the least of our expectations. If we don't make playoffs, like I'll eat a shoe. You can
All right,
you can
clip
post on
that,
that one.
clip that. If they don't make playoffs, K-Peps will be eating a shoe.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Welcome back to the Dorado Gaming Org and this iteration of their roster. So, fully expecting them to make a deep run and maybe win their first Conquer League Championship after 4 tries, maybe. So, best of luck to you guys. And let's move on to the next team. The next team drawn is XG Fairy. Let's move down. Let's check out the XG Fairy roster. This is the sister team. And lucky me, their other team is in Group B, so this team just lands in Group C, and I don't make any mistakes. So
Big.
the roster is Spoobert in the top lane. Last minute addition. They added this right before the draw show. Technics in the jungle role, Rendleman in the mid lane, Goat Lista in the ADC role, and then Juicebox as support. K-Pep's thoughts on this XG Fairy roster?
I think I've played against Goat Lista and Scrims, but he did not play Callista. Also, they were playing with Improvise, so it was kind of just like a smish mash roster. I expect them to be solid. It's kind of just the same expectations of the other XG team. I think both look pretty even.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think Technics and Rendleman, both players that just recently moved up to Emerald. Interested to see how they perform here. They have some pretty familiar faces in Group C with them as well. So good to see that. Welcome to those players to conquer. And let's move on to the next team, which will be the seventh team in Group A. And that team will be Akuma Shurikens. Check out the Akuma roster here. Akuma Shurikens has Servants in the top lane, Septi in the jungle role, Dab Twice in the mid lane, Don Corleone, better known as Ivar, in the ADC role, Memer Sticks in support, and Zodiac as a sub. K-Peps, any thoughts on the Akuma Shurikens roster?
Yeah, so Septi's a very good jungler, so I expect that to be really strong. I know he's got Coffee as his coach, so he's definitely learning a lot. Coffee's a good player. I will also say I think Memer Sticks is a very, very good support player. When we played against him in BOL finals when he was on the other Dorado team, he was like the 2 games that they won, like he was almost like solo getting his team into those games and winning those games.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a lot of respect for Memer Sticks as a player. And then of course Ivar isn't he a Swain one trick, or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, he is. Ivar is the swing one trick.
There you go.
Sometimes
That'll be
when
big. Okay.
I think when he's playing on a team like this in the ADC role, you could probably see him on Seraphine a lot too. Just Seraphine duties. So
Yeah, and I'm sure there will be some of the trolley sponsorship money going into Titan, and maybe this team will end up getting higher up in the playoffs. We'll have to see.
yeah, for sure. We'll see. We'll see how they do. I fully expect them to make playoffs, make a deep run. Hopefully, Ivar does not hold the team back too much. Considering I believe he has gold 1 right now. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but yeah, that's going to be an interesting roster to see how they perform. And glad to see Akuma in the D4 Cap League as well. So let's move on. They'll be in Group A. Let's move on to the next team. Which will be No Quarter Gaming. Let's check out the No Quarter Gaming or NQG roster. Coming in hot with this lion, purple and gold lion logo. NQG has Piggy AI in the top lane, Snapback in the jungle role, Zed in the mid lane, Muzra in the ADC role, and a Sign in support with Def Instinct as a sub. K-Pep's thoughts on the NQG roster?
I think I played against some of these players. I could be wrong in Risen, and the team wasn't very good. I know are they also like, is Cone also an owner of this org?
No, he is their team manager.
Okay. I don't put faith in teams that Cone runs, so I don't have faith in this team, but we'll have to see how they do.
You don't put faith in teams that Cone runs?
No, I thought TMG was going to lose every single series they played last year.
Dude, they won Conqueror last split.
Yeah, I still have zero faith in Cone teams.
Are you literally saying that they're not gonna make playoffs? I won't hold you to that. No predictions this early on. But I'm not familiar with all these players.
Well, making Drake angry, that's good.
My cat just attacked my arm. Sorry about that.
Getting real passionate about these Subway gift cards right now.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see how NQG performs. Excited to see some of their players, and I'm sure Cone has assembled a very solid roster that will be making a deep run. So NQG will be going into Group B as the 7th team there. And then let's draw the next team. Oh, the next team is True Minded Gaming, who is our reigning defending Conqueror League champions. With a little bit of a different roster, a lot of role swaps, or maybe 2 role swaps. But they have the Conqueror MVP and ADC for the last TMG team swapping to the top lane in Mermos. Hot and B in the jungle role. Crazy Worky, their former support in the mid lane. Overrush, who is an actual ADC, looks like a new pickup. Very solid ADC in the ADC role, and then Mr. Cool in the support role. K-Peps, any thoughts on the shakeups that our defending champions have made?
I think I already said it on the previous one. Again, I struggle to think TMG teams are going to do well, even if they end up doing well. It kind of just is what it is. It'll be funny, whatever happens. Mermaz will play for KDA and then type about his KDA constantly in the chat, and then we'll somehow get voted MVP, so then he can talk about it for the next 3 months or randomly at people.
Hey,
Maybe actually most of my disdain for TMG as an org is about him individually and less about Cone, but it just is what it is.
Hey, the man was an MVP last split, championship team, but it's going to be a lot more difficult to do that in the top lane, in my opinion. Yes, I don't think it's an ADC meta right now, and solo laners are more important to winning, but yeah, KDA is a lot harder to maintain playing top lane, in my opinion. So, and I'm interested to see how their lane swaps perform actually. So, I'm assuming Kona's hoping that they prove everybody wrong like they did last split, but I'm not too confident in my opinion. Like you mentioned, lane swaps are very difficult to accomplish, especially bringing in new players and considering you're not in your best role. So we'll see how they do, and if they're able to repeat as champions. Fun fact: we've never had anybody repeat in Conqueror, so I fully don't expect that to happen here. Let's move on to the final team in Group A, which will be Pretty Boys. Let's check out the Pretty Boys roster. If I can find them on the sheet. Sheet is too big. Pretty Boys is not providing me a logo either, so I'm disappointed in them as well. But they have Ready MCK in the top lane, My Name Jeff in the in the jungle role, Avenging Fuzzy in the mid lane, Yellow Flash ADC, and Army Dino as support with Rowan and Pro Kills as subs. So this team is another team that recently moved up and added a couple of Emerald players due to that to their roster, but a lot of new faces that I haven't really seen around. So I think it's a group of friends playing together. So we'll see how they perform. K-Peps, I'm assuming it's the same thing for you. Are you familiar with any of the players?
Nope.
Yep, that's what I assume. So we will see how they do and if they can make a name for themselves. Pretty Boys goes into Group A as the final team. And let's spin the wheel. Dun, 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 dun. And the second last team going into Group B is Rubber Ducky Gaming. Let's check out the RDG roster. I think we are very familiar with them as they have recently participated in our Conqueror splits the past year, having very solid performances with some of these players as well that are returning. Their top lane is currently missing, so they're filling a top lane role right now. Their jungler is Council Diana, new player. Day Striker returning in the mid lane, Mojo Joe in the ADC role, and FBF Ardaro as the support. K-Pep's thoughts on the Rubber Ducky Gaming roster?
I'm interested to see if they're going to go back to what they did like the first split they did in Conquer, where they kind of just play with like two different teams. They swap things in and out. Shout out to their one of their subs, Angel. Good guy, good ADC. Hopefully he'll get to play some games. I don't. I know they've been disappointing, though. I would say the last two splits, I don't think they've had a team make it past semis. But it'll be interesting to see how this team does. It looks like Drake's full in on focusing on trying to help these players out again instead of whatever lands he has going on. But it'll be interesting to see how the roster does.
Yeah, I definitely expect them to perform well, make playoffs, make a deep run as well as they have done the past in 2023 with their different iterations of teams, along with winning the Winter 2023, I believe, split. And as I forgot to mention, some of their very solid subs that they have on the roster with Toast Mist, Joe, Angel, and Ty Tom, of course, with their coach Drake. So we will see how Rubber Ducky Gaming does in this iteration of the roster and our winter split. So yeah, I was gonna say the teams that they're in the group with, but they'll be in Group B, and we'll spin for the final team, which is who else could it be? It's Glacial Knights as the final team. And let's check out their roster up here. Oh, there's the G. Glacial Knights coming in with Tsunami QA, Tsuna as the top laner, Kilp in the jungler role, Lion D Kaiser in the mid lane, Defiance as the ADC, and Securius as the support. I'm not very familiar with this roster. K-Peps, familiar with the Glacial org, been around for a long time, lots of teams. Some solid performances, some not so good performances. Thoughts on the specific iteration of the roster?
Nope. It feels like with Glacial, they never actually like continue any players from team to team, so it's hard to be like, oh, there's any continuity there. But yeah, be interesting to see how they do.
I will agree with that. It makes bring in and out a lot of different players. So welcome to them to our Conquer League. I don't know if I think they might have participated a couple times before, but yeah, with the last team being drawn, that wraps up the draw, and now we can take a look at the standings to see that the groups finalized. I believe this should work because I have a wide screen, so we should be able to see all three groups. So yeah, Group A, we have Iceborne Chaos, Krakow V2, Elysium Dog Pound, Eclipsing Tides, Stasis Gaming Genesis, Sensei Squad, Inari, Arkuma Shurikens, and Pretty Boys. I think K-Peps, we can probably like just give a quick overview of each group by group and then wrap it up after that. Thoughts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
let's start with Group A.
Yeah, I think the favorites in this group are probably going to be Akuma. or Iceborne. I think both those teams will be really similar. It'll be a good clash when those teams come together. I think this is definitely a top-heavy group, and then it falls off pretty hard. So I think it'll be anybody's, like, I think the top three, and then I'll put my faith in my boys Elysium, but then it'll, I think, just sort of be a grabs for the fourth one. It'll be a nice rivalry though between Elysium and Sensei Squad, as I know Pregnant Glow and Water Bear are pretty good friends.
That is true. That's funny that they got into the same group because I remember I think the fall 2022 split. We had that 4 week or 3 week single round robin group, and that you guys participated that time, and I think Sensei Squad was in the group as well with Elysium. So that's funny how the draw shakes out to put familiar faces together in the same group. But I think I kind of agree with your general sentiment that it'll probably be like Iceborne or Kuma, and then Elysium and as Sensei Squad. I think that the group is actually very even when it comes to competition because I'm looking at some of the other teams that are in there and thinking about their rosters, and I don't think any of these teams in this group should go on 0-7. So
yeah, I don't think that would happen there.
There will be some very fair competition for a lot of the teams in that group, in my opinion. Let's move on to Group B. I guess for Group A, who do you think you have winning the group first seed?
For Group A, if I were to give a definitive one,
yeah,
I think I've got faith in Septi as a player. I would say Kuma. But if Iceborne wins, I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it to Iceborne over Akuma, just because Akuma has that 1 weak spot on their team, and I don't think Iceborne does, so we'll see if that actually happens. Let's move on to Group B. Excuse me. We have Misery Sapphire Abyss, Fraudulent 5, XG Dark, To the Moon Triton, TD Unknown, Dorado Gaming Iota, No Quarter Gaming, and Rubber Ducky Gaming. So this group, just reading the teams, I think is probably pretty much the same as Group A. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this group definitely got a lot harder in the second half of the drawing. I mean, it's hard for me to talk because my own team's in it, and like I've got faith that we won't lose. So obviously, I'm going to say my team's the favorite. But I think there's going to be some pretty good competition again. I think TD Unknown's a real dark horse going into this tournament, and I think they can definitely surprise some people. RDG still RDG, but then and an XG's an XG team. You've got sort of some big names in this group, but I still feel pretty confident we'll come out on top.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I could see the Rubber Ducky Gaming team, giving you guys some competition. The last time we had RDG and Dorado in the same group, stuff didn't go very well for the Dorado org. So we'll see if you guys are able to get some revenge there. But in this group specifically, I think like what you're saying, you guys probably still win out with RDG being a close second. And then like 3 to 8 is probably like a free for all, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like 3 to 6, 7. But yeah, I think there's a lot of good competition in that specific group. I could see you guys going 7-0 if you get lucky.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm being told Rigor Mortis is a better player than me after I 3-0'd him, but it's okay. Everybody always says the Maokai player is bad at the video game.
That's funny. Yeah, so good luck to the teams in Group B. Let's move over to Group C, where we have Yoshi's Internet Sucks, Horizon Vanguard, Andromeda Gaming, ID Honeyfruit, Eden Snapdragons, XG Fairy, True Minded Gaming, and Glacial Knights. I think this group... Honestly, I'm just reading them off now looking at like a full overview of all the groups, and they're all so even. In my opinion, without doing a deeper run, they're all very even. What are your thoughts on the top 4?
Yeah, It's interesting. I think this team feels very even. I think the groups are also pretty even. I will say, I think this is the one group though. Looking at it, well, I think like off the rip of teams I think are good in this group. It's you've got Yoshi's Internet Sucks, Horizon will be good, ID Honeyfruit will be good, XG Fairy will probably be good, and then True Minded Gaming should be good. So it's realistically, if you take those 5 teams, it's what I would say considered a good team from the start is not going to make playoffs in this group, and that's not considering if Glacial Knights, Eden Snapdragons, or Andromeda show up either. Any of those teams could be a shock too.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with your sentiment.
But I will say I think this is ID Honeyfruit. If they go 7-0 in this group, would not be shocking at all. I think that
think
is a
so?
very clear favorite in this group.
You think so? You don't think
Yes.
Yoshi's Internet Sucks or like Horizon or even TMG could take like a series off of them?
I think Yoshi's Internet Sucks will be the closest team. I'm putting a lot of faith in Horizon based off of their organization.
Yeah.
When I've played against some of the players on the team, I'll be honest, I wasn't overly impressed. So that's why I think like ID Honeyfruit should just clearly win this group.
Okay. I think I'm gonna Yoshi's Internet Sucks doesn't take they don't a lot of their players they role swap. If they still continue role swapping and don't take regular season that seriously, they're not gonna take top
Also,
seed.
do we know if Epi's playing for that team? That does make a big
Yeah,
difference.
he is.
Oh, okay. If they're role swapping with Epi, they'll be fine. Epi's goated.
Yeah, they're playing. He's playing on the team. I just don't know if they're using a sub or not. I know one of their players just ranked out before the split started. They had him on the roster, but I don't know. I don't know if they're role swapping. If it was just a one split thing that they did.
Yeah. I mean, by playoffs, they stopped doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if I'm correct, Lost was jungle every game. Their
Yeah,
ADC was ADC every game. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I mean they were aiming to win and clearly losing 3-2, to the finalists was
Right.
was a good performance. So if they do take it, if they don't roll swap, I could see them stealing with the first seed. But if they don't, they probably finish like 2, 3, 4, make playoffs, and then turn it on a little bit. And then honestly, probably ID Honeyfruit, I'd agree they should take this group. Not 7-0 though, but I think they should take this group. Just based off of some of the players and seeing them perform here before. But yeah, this group is a very good challenge for teams like Eden Snapdragons, Glacial Knights, and Andromeda Gaming. Definitely very challenging for them. So good introduction to some of them for Emerald Leagues. So yeah, after drawing 24 teams, I think that pretty much wraps up all the groups. And our final thoughts on the standings, or not the standings, the actual different groups. Similar to what I explained earlier on, if you guys take a look at the schedule, it's the same for every group, Group A, B, C. You don't really have to worry about the other groups for the first 7 weeks, really. But based on what order you were drawn in, that is what your schedule is. So if you were the first team drawn into Group 1, you will be the A1 team, and then 7th team, that's who you play. And over tonight, probably tomorrow, this sheet will actually be updated with the appropriate team names, and then your schedules are locked in pretty much, but you can figure out who your opponent is for week 1 already. Yeah, with that being said, that was a pretty solid long draw show. Took us about 45 minutes to an hour for this last iteration of Conquer. Thank you to K-Peps for joining us. Any final thoughts?
No, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and look forward to playing against everybody.
I agree. Thank you to everybody that joined us, all the guests, all the hosts that joined me as well. I'm super excited to start this Winter Split. Matches week 1 for Conqueror next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Hopefully we have some content that we're cooking. We'll have predictions as well posted for the community to submit throughout the whole split ran by Boogie. So he'll be posting those for everybody to contribute, think who is going to win. And yeah, hope you guys participate in some of the other leagues as well. Check out some of the talent in the higher cap leagues, lower cap leagues. I'm excited to see how this split shakes out and who ends up being champions. And I'm glad to have everybody in the community participating. So I think with that being said, I think we're gonna wrap it up here and call an end to the show. Good luck to all the teams. May the odds be in your favor. And I look forward to seeing you guys on stream this upcoming week. Thank you, everyone. Good night.